Welcome back to the Coffee Hour. I'm Andy Bates.
I'm Sarah Gulseth.
It is one of our favorite things. Probably, I'm guessing it's our favorite thing. It's right up there. Missionaries, music, and food. Those are the things that we love sharing, the stories we love sharing here on the Coffee Hour. I'm not sure if it goes in that order. They kind of all go together. You're right. Today, we're going to share a missionary story. Love doing that here on the Coffee Hour. Mm-hmm. I'm Andy Bates.
I'm Sarah Gulseth.
Did we say that already?
We did.
Boy, you think it was Monday.
Well, there's been a lot of Mondays lately.
We're spending some time. We're recording in the studio with Jana Engelhardt. She is serving the Lord in Latin America and the Caribbean region as a communication specialist. Jana, thanks so much for spending some time with us in the studio so we could share your missionary story.
Well, thanks so much for having me. It's nice to be back in a cool climate for the moment.
What is your missionary story? Your history. How did you come to serve the Lord in Latin America and the Caribbean?
Oh, my goodness. Well, to begin with, I had been interested for quite a long time. But when my youngest child moved out and went to college, my daughter, that house was empty. I mean, it echoed. There was no life left in that home. And I decided, well, you can sit here and cry or you can do something. And so I thought, well, I'm still very healthy and I'm strong, and I think maybe I'll consider missionary service. So I talked to the kids, and they said, yeah, Mom, you spent all those years raising us. I think it's time for you to go do something that you would like to do. So I applied, and to my surprise, they called me back. And so, yeah, now I serve in the Dominican Republic, and I am really enjoying it.
Yeah. What do you get to do as a communications specialist? That's a bit of a unique role on the mission field, as somebody that gets to do a little bit of different work.
There are all kinds of facets to that. So far, I've recorded television broadcasts that have been broadcast across the country. It's on again, off again, but when we have opportunity, we do those recordings of pastors doing just a simple devotion in Spanish, record it with a green screen, and send it to the television station, and they have it. But otherwise, website design, I write stories, take photos, produce flyers. Like if there's going to be a deaconess course, you might need a flyer for something like that. That would be something that would be my duty to do. Just any number of interviewing missionaries on the field, helping produce materials for our seminary, things like adopt-a-student forms for people to get involved with our adopt-a-student program. Those types of things. I mean, it can be any number of things that I do on a regular basis.
Yeah. It's a lot of that the background work that makes everything kind of go smoothly. Yeah.
Exactly. That's the hope anyway, that I help make things go smoothly. I don't know if I achieve it, but it's my hope.
Well, it's really important work so the missionaries can do their work effectively as well. How much of this do you do in Spanish?
It's pretty much all in Spanish, except, well, I try to post something on our Facebook page, LCMS LAC, every day, and that is posted in English and in Spanish because we have a lot of Spanish-speaking people that would like to see what's going on in Latin America, as well as Samaritans.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we share a bunch of those too. So if people hopefully people follow our page and your page, they can see all of these great stories going on. What was that? The language acquisition, transition to culture. What was that all like?
Well, I am still working on that. My Spanish is getting better every day. When I arrived in the country, I spent the first 4 months working on learning Spanish. And then, since then, I've had classes on and off. I regularly have an online course that I've been working on for as long as I've been there. It's just another way of learning. But I've learned the most just from talking to people. And I mean, because you have to find the words to use. And the nice thing is they're very friendly, helpful people. So they will gently correct if you need to be corrected. And it sticks because it was a personal friend or whatever, and you can remember then.
Tell me about some of the people that you've met serving in the Dominican Republic.
Probably the most recent one that was such a joy to me was in my area right near my home, like a 5-minute drive. There's a botanical garden, and it's been a work in progress, but it's a really nice place to go walk. And when I go walk there, I often meet people that want to talk to the American. They want to either practice their English or they're just interested to see what I do in the country. Why am I there? So when I was there last time, there were 3 little boys, and they were near a bridge. They were just sitting there playing, and I walked by, and immediately, they started following me. They wanted to talk. They wanted to see why I was there, who I was. And so it gave me an open door to start talking about why I was there. And it ended up, the 3 little boys told me what they knew about Jesus, and I was able to share the story of Noah's Ark. Sorry.
They're both water stories.
Exactly, water stories. And we spent probably 2 hours just chatting about life, about Jesus, and the gospel was there, and I was just tickled to death to be able to do that. And they finally left. They had to go to their house, but I left with a big smile on my face. It was great.
You had an opportunity to just enjoy conversation in this with friendly people in this new culture. How has learning about the culture, learning the language, which is quite often the central part of a new culture, how has that helped you do your work as a communication specialist? How does that shape the work that you do? You mentioned doing print pieces and website and social media. Has that shaped or helped you reframe how you go about some of this work?
It's basically, I try to think of it on both sides. Well, like for instance, I mentioned the Facebook post. If I post in English, then I post it in Spanish. Sometimes the Spanish is different that the translator pulls up than what I thought it should be, and then I have to go speak to an actual Spanish-speaking person and say, "Hey, what's going on here? What do I need to change?" Or someone will tell me that, "Hey, you said this and it looks really funny, and so this is how it should be instead." But they're very kind about it, and it helps me a lot, that way.
Yeah. How open are people to hearing about Jesus in this culture?
They are very, very open. If you get in a cab or an Uber, or if you're in the grocery store. I actually had a lady in the grocery store the other day that saw me, and she knew I was American, so she came up immediately, started talking, and turns out that she was married to a pastor, and so we had a wonderful conversation in the grocery store aisle, a person I'd never met, and it was really neat. It was just another opportunity that I had just going to buy groceries, that I could talk to this lady.
Yeah, that's a very different cultural experience than maybe going shopping in an American grocery store around here when you kind of have your blinders on. You're trying not to talk to people.
No, here they welcome it. They love to talk about it, and they will share with me, and I can share with them, and it's just a really nice system.
Yeah. How closely do you get to work with the missionaries that are on the field in the whole Latin American region?
Across the region, I have contact on an as-needed basis. Mm-hmm. I try to connect regularly because I need stories. People want to know what's going on, and I'm the person that needs to provide that for them. So I'm constantly looking to other people to tell me what's going on in your region. What events do you have going on? Mm-hmm. Confirmations, whatever, church openings, church plants. And so I'm in constant contact that way with other people in the region. Our group in Santiago, I work in an office with them, and so many of them are in and around that office every day.
Sure. Do you get to go to travel to the other parts of the region to actually see what's going on?
I do. I've been to several different countries. I went to Spain last year, Panama, Peru. It's just always a joy to go there and see that the Lutheran world is a very small world. Everywhere I go, I make connections. One in particular, I had been to Peru, and I immediately connected with these two ladies in the kitchen, and we talked for probably an hour and a half. It was like we'd known each other our whole lives. Well, come to find out, she had a daughter at Concordia Seward, and then recently, I was back in the States briefly, and I was contacted by someone that said, you need to meet this young lady who's working at Orphan Grain Tree, and I think you'd like her. Well, it's the daughter that was in Seward that belongs to the lady I met in Peru.
Yep.
There are these connections that are incredible.
I think we call that a Concordia connection.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of those.
Could be. But no, it was just delightful. It's to have these connections, and now she knows people that I know people that she knows. It's the body of Christ.
Okay, so you've mentioned grocery stores, you've mentioned the kitchen. I have to ask my question about the food. Now, you live in the Dominican, but you said you've also gotten to travel a little bit through the areas that you serve as well. How has moving to a new culture, how has that worked out in terms of food? Have you found anything that you really like, or have you acquired a new taste for anything?
Well, I already had a taste for chocolate and coffee, and I have found that in the Dominican Republic. They have coffee and chocolate. They're both very, very good. But as I've traveled around, I've found, in Peru, wonderful food in Peru. In Spain, they had wonderful tapas. Oh, it was, I've enjoyed it greatly. My favorite food in the Dominican Republic, though, apart from the other two food groups, the coffee and the chocolate, the beans and rice are spectacular. Honestly, that's my very favorite thing. And so if I weren't going to be at TGI Fridays in the Dominican Republic, I would probably go have beans and rice.
I like that coffee and chocolate are food groups.
Okay,
yes, they are.
So you mentioned TGI Fridays, just a typical American restaurant. How much American influence is there on restaurants and things like that? Type of
there are
part
a
of culture.
Few. There's McDonald's. There's Burger King. I think. Well, I know there's TGI Fridays. I'm not sure. I don't eat out very much. I did have a problem once. I went to one of the fast food places on my way to language training. I had just gotten there. It was like a week after I got there, and I was really tired because just the culture shock makes you tired. It just makes you tired. Too much to process. So I quickly ran in to grab a cup of coffee. So I ordered a coffee, and they came out, and it was a coffee about the size of, I don't know, a Dixie cup. I was so sad.
I need more coffee than this.
I was so sad. It was really good coffee. It was just so tiny.
Where or how do you see the good news of Jesus Christ being proclaimed in Latin America and the Caribbean, the areas that you're serving as communication specialist? Where do you see your fellow missionaries and partner churches proclaiming that good news of Jesus?
Oh, it's exploding down there. People are so hungry for the gospel. There's a lot of law pretty much everywhere, but the gospel, the precious gospel, the forgiveness of sins, life and salvation in Jesus Christ. People are so hungry for that. And so we don't have a lot of Spanish-speaking Lutheran pastors. I believe we've got around 250 across the whole region. That includes Spain and all of Latin America, South and Central America. But we have a brand new seminary there that's training pastors, and each of those pastors will go, and most missionaries are on the field for maybe 3 years or so on the average. I'm not sure exactly the number, but these pastors will go be part of the culture and live there for a lifetime serving as pastors. So with our seminary there training these pastors, the outlook is incredibly bright for Latin America with their hunger for the gospel.
Jana Engelhardt, serving the Lord in Latin America and the Caribbean region as communication specialist. Thank you so much for being our guest on the Coffee Hour.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I've enjoyed it incredibly much.
I'm Eddie Bates.
I'm Sarah Gulseth.
The Coffee Hour with Andy and Sarah is a production of KFUO. To support the Coffee Hour and KFUO Radio, visit KFUO.org. You can also text KFUO to 41444 or send an email to gifts@KFUO.org. And you can call us at 800-844-0524. KFUO. Christ for you, anytime, anywhere.